Chapter 4. The Experiment. The grove they selected was a picturesque spot where several fruit trees had dropped their overripe offerings onto the forest floor. The sweet, slightly alcoholic smell of fermentation hung in the air, along with the buzzing of various insects who were clearly having a very good time. Carla approached the selection with the same careful attention she usually reserved for stalking prey. "All right, let's see what we have here." She nudged a particularly aromatic piece of fruit with her snout, then recoiled slightly. "This smells intense." "That's how you know it's working," Herb said encouragingly. "Working might not be the right word," Gary observed. Carla picked up the fruit delicately in her teeth and held it for a moment, as if having second thoughts. "You know, this really goes against every instinct I have." "That's the spirit of scientific inquiry," Herb exclaimed, "pushing past your comfort zone in the pursuit of knowledge." "Or in the pursuit of stupidity," Carla muttered. "Here goes nothing." She bit down carefully, immediately making a face that suggested this was not a pleasant experience. She chewed thoughtfully for a moment, then swallowed with visible effort. "Well?" Herb asked, eagerly. Carla paused, as if searching for the right words. "It's not the worst thing I've ever tasted, but it's definitely not good." "But you're not dying," Herb pointed out triumphantly. "Yet," Gary added. "I'm trying to be optimistic here, Gary." Carla was standing very still, as if taking inventory of her internal systems. "Actually, it's kind of fizzy. Is that normal for fruit?" "That's the fermentation," Herb explained. "It's like nature's way of adding carbonation." "I don't know what carbonation is, but this is weird." Gary was watching Carla carefully for any signs of distress. "How do you feel? Any nausea? Dizziness? Sudden urge to eat us?" "No more than usual," Carla replied, which was not as reassuring as Gary had hoped. "Actually, I feel kind of warm and slightly confused." "That might be the alcohol," Gary suggested. "There's alcohol in fruit?" Carla asked, swaying slightly. "In fermented fruit, yes." "Huh." Carla sat down heavily. "That explains why those insects look so happy all the time." Herb was practically dancing with excitement. "Carla, this is amazing! You're eating plant matter and not dying. This could change everything." "I ate one piece of fruit, Herb. One very alcoholic piece of fruit. I'm not ready to declare victory for vegetarianism just yet. But it's a start." Carla looked at the remaining fruit on the ground with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "You know what? I think I'm developing a taste for this stuff." Gary felt a sudden sense of alarm. "Carla, maybe we should take this slowly." But Carla had already picked up another piece of fruit and was examining it with interest. "This one smells even more fragrant." "Fragrant is one way to put it," Gary muttered. Carla ate the second piece with considerably more enthusiasm than the first. "Okay, this is definitely growing on me. It's sweet, it's fizzy, and it makes me feel all tingly." "Tingly how?" Gary asked nervously. "Like happy tingly. Like everything is funny and interesting and—" Carla paused, looking around the grove with wonder. "Have you guys ever noticed how beautiful trees are?" Herb and Gary exchanged glances. "Carla," Gary said carefully, "I think you might be getting drunk." "Drunk?" Carla considered this. "Is that what this feeling is? Because I like it." She reached for a third piece of fruit. "Maybe we should pace ourselves," Gary suggested. "Nonsense," Carla declared, her voice already becoming slightly slurred. "This is scientific research. We need to be thorough." "Scientific research usually involves control groups and careful measurement," Gary pointed out. "Details," Carla waved dismissively, nearly losing her balance. "The important thing is that I'm eating plants and not dying. Herb was right." Herb beamed with pride. "I told you this would work." "You told me it would revolutionize the ecosystem," Gary corrected. "So far, all we've proven is that carnivores can get drunk on fruit." "Same thing," Herb and Carla said in unison, then looked at each other and burst into laughter. Gary realized that he was now the only sober dinosaur in the group, which seemed like a significant tactical disadvantage. "You know what we should do?" Carla said suddenly, swaying as she stood up. "We should tell everyone about this." "Everyone?" Gary asked weakly. "All the carnivores. They deserve to know about the wonders of fruit." "Drunk fruit," Gary specified. "The best kind of fruit." Herb nodded enthusiastically. "We could start a movement, the Fermented Fruit Liberation Front." "The Alcoholic Fruit Appreciation Society," Carla countered. "Guys," Gary interjected, "maybe we should think about this when you're both sober." "Sober is overrated," Carla declared. "I've been sober my whole life, and what has that gotten me? A boring diet and a pessimistic attitude?" "It's also kept you alive and healthy," Gary pointed out. "So has fruit, apparently." Gary couldn't argue with that logic, mostly because it wasn't actually logic. Carla had discovered another fermented fruit and was examining it with the intense focus of a scholar. "You know what I'm noticing? Different fruits taste different when they're fermented. This one is more tangy." "That's probably a different type of fruit," Gary suggested. "Or maybe it's more fermented," Herb added. "More evolved." Carla nodded sagely. "Evolution in action. We're witnessing the birth of a new dietary paradigm." "We're witnessing the birth of two drunk dinosaurs," Gary muttered. But despite his growing concern about the direction this experiment was taking, Gary had to admit that Carla did seem to be handling the plant matter reasonably well. She wasn't sick. She wasn't in obvious distress, and apart from the mild intoxication, she seemed fine. "You know what?" Carla said suddenly. "I think I understand Herb's plant conspiracy theory now." "You do?" Herb asked eagerly. "Absolutely. The plants aren't trying to control us. They're trying to get us drunk so we'll leave them alone to party with the insects." Herb considered this. "That's actually not a bad theory." "It makes more sense than your original theory," Gary admitted. "All theories make sense when you're drunk enough," Carla observed philosophically. As the afternoon wore on and Carla continued her research into fermented fruit varieties, Gary found himself in the surreal position of supervising two intoxicated dinosaurs who were convinced they'd discovered something revolutionary. The strangest part was that, in a very limited sense, they actually had.